All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 63rd episode of our first run through Book of Hours, playing as the artist and enjoying the new Daymare patch, although I've now got a really tough decision ahead of me. So, I'm going to use my whist to... We'll talk with Mrs. Kill. So I'm going to use my whist to level up Inks of Containment. Well, that's the plan right now. I may actually fall back on that for reasons that will make a whole lot more sense in a little bit. So, I mean, again, you do the best with the information you have. I really didn't think that I was going to wind up with a stolen secret from Mrs. Kill, and I don't think it makes sense to put a playthrough on hold for an unlikely event to come up. But it did, so now I'm going to need to come up with a plan to essentially get 6 more memories to level up Edict's Liminal by the end of the day. So 2 of those memories will come from crafting. In fact, one of them will use Edict's Liminal itself. And it'll in fact take me a minute to get there because my tryst is currently used. Oh, actually, it would be good for me to pay for my dinner. It is winter and the storms have tightened the seas. I am sitting before the fire and the sweet bones with the beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. So in 17 seconds, it'll take me a minute to get the tryst back, but I think we should still be able to make the relevant memory. So what are the things that I need to be able to level up Edict's Liminal? One of those is going to be Shapt, and then actually, hang on. Let's actually map this out. So, the elements that I can use to bring to level up the Edict's Liminal are a pattern, an impulse salt, stolen secret, a name day riddle, an old moment, and a secret threshold. And then whatever weather comes up, but clearly that's not relevant here. Of those things, the impulse and the stolen secret are the only 2 that Mrs. Kill can give me. And of course, we've already got the stolen secret. So realistically, Mrs. Kill can give us exactly one of the memories that we need. So what we're looking at here is we want to generate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different items. Now, 2 of those items are from crafting. Okay, so we'll take those for granted. And I have possibly 1 spare element of the soul right now. So what do I need here? We need the pattern, let's say pattern, impulse, salt. Okay, so a pattern, impulse, salt. So 3 different items. With that in mind, pattern, impulse, salt, and secret threshold, so 4 items. Three if we rely on Mrs. Kill giving me the impulse. Okay, so if it's 3, I think we're actually just short of what we need over the course of the day, if I'm completely honest. So, I gotta be honest with you, I think the likelihood of this turning out is pretty remote. So the logic is this. So I can use the water to get the Arab back, so that's gonna take sort of half the day. But not the Arab back, the Shapt back. But that's fine if we assume. So let's say that we've committed the rest to getting the Shapt back. So then it's like, okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to spend a minute getting the tryst back. But getting the tryst back is just so I can get the name day riddle. We're not even getting any of the relevant memories, right? So essentially in 17 seconds, we're sort of around the midday point. So that's going to be 1 minute. Then we have a second minute to get the next item back, and then the third one, so let me just double check. So yeah, so we would have the 2, and then we're somehow expecting that I'm going to be able to read the book and level the stolen secret up, and Mrs. Kill's given me the item that I need in time. So My next best is going to be to say, let's try and preserve the stolen secret, and that means that I want a bed with Nock or Moon. And I'm actually kind of indifferent between whether it's the Violet Chamber or the Pale Chamber. Oh no, the Pale Chamber doesn't work at all. The Severin Chamber, I think, is a little more attractive here. Or no, it just takes Moon as well, so God. In the days of the DeWolfs, this chamber was reserved for the heir of the house, although it was originally furnished for Hafren, the woman of uncertain lineage who became Baron Walter's mother and bequeathed her unusual pale eyes and hair to Walter and his descendants. Or the Violet Chamber. In the days of the DeWolfs, this chamber was reserved for the lady of the house. Later, the librarians William Harries and Gervenius van Loren both preferred it to the librarians' quarters. Harries established a little shrine to St. Agnes in the far corner, and there it remained for many years until Van Loren ordered it removed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set myself up in a way to try and preserve the memory for the next day. I don't normally like pushing things off to the next day, but this is one of these cases where it makes sense. So Hush House is a mansion of many rooms. I'll move to a different one. Plus, we did just get Gervenius van Loren's letters to my successor, so it feels a little appropriate that we change. Better now. Okay, so it kind of does feel like I've given up today, but it also, I still think this is the right call. So honestly, let's just keep doing the thing that we've always been doing. We've been earning a little bit of money and restoring and back and forth. Maybe at the end of the day, we'll examine a few items in, I guess it's just one item in the Patient's Lounge. Skeleton Songs, for which there is a new episode, incidentally. I know this gives me music, but poems of greedy delight composed by the possibly pseudonymous Arbella Dusk, the rumored heiress turned madam turned poetess. Now the real drawback is going to be if Numa comes, and it's not because we're not going to be able to level up Edict's Liminal. I rather suspect that we will be able to do that, but it does mean that essentially that's going to be the only thing that I can do for the day. So I'm hoping that we get a bit more time, but the best thing for me to do is kind of batten down the hatches, get the inks where they need to be. All right, another fruit plucked from knowledge's tree. There it is in Gabino Tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now, and incidentally that hindsight would have been something I could use for leveling up the inks. So another example of elements of the soul that wound up being used in a way other than what I'd intended. Oh, you know what? I definitely didn't think this through. I believe I need to use an element of the soul to actually claim a bed, so that was my bad. Gather my belongings, refresh the sheets for any guests I might have, ready to move on. So I'll need to restore the shaft for that. That was a big oversight on my part. But fortunately I still have time throughout the day. But yeah, I definitely need to smarten up, because this is going to be a very sad thing to lose. In fact, if it takes 90 seconds, I might already be close to losing it. Alright, as they used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. So let's pay up for my shaft. It is winter and the storms have tightened the seas. I am sitting before the fire in the sweet bones with a beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. So it's a little, it's kind of like a lame duck session right now. I'm happy that we got the books cataloged and that we didn't, we didn't wind up with any curses or anything like that. But in this case, we're really just waiting for summer to be able to do the next challenge. Also, right, I remember using my last Spintria because the we knew that the Foundation would be giving us an Iron Spintria. Although, again, if we get hit by Numa, we wouldn't be able to get language lessons from any of those visitors. Okay, the fear is something that I could use to make the old moment, but again, the old moment isn't something that I can keep persistent. So it's one thing to combine the fear and the earth sign into a combination, but it's another thing to actually be able to hang on to it. Okay, better now. So unless I have something that takes 30 seconds, which technically, if I look at the... you know what, maybe lacquered bone chess set. We'll see. Camp. I'll make this my lodgings for the time being. It does take 90 seconds. Okay, so we may lose the stolen secret and not have the shaft by the end of the day. That's going to be a real shame if that's how that turns out. I might as well make a little bit out of the money that I got. It is winter and the storms have tightened the seas. I'm sitting in the fire and the before the fire and the sweet bones with this beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. I suppose the one catch here is that I is the regret. So lots of things I could have used to level up Ink's containment. Actually, I'm probably getting a little too paranoid here. We'll have this within a minute. When I was feeling sad about how the lesson might have turned out, it did occur to me. It's like, well, what if I didn't use the heart to restore? Well, I guess I could have recovered the shaft earlier anyway, but given the fact that I'm a little early in terms of assuming like when the day is going to finish, it's possible that maybe I could have made it in terms of elements of the soul. But again, this period, you basically have a minute in which to do everything. And I just don't see a situation where I'd be able to accomplish everything that I set out to do. So I think I made the right call, but again, I don't get to sort of redo the save to see if it would have turned out differently. I don't know. Lacquered bone chess set, Born of Battles. Investigate this object. This is more out of curiosity. It might have made more sense to do it the next day because it would, I could keep a memory from it, but I'm not that fussed. Yeah, with 28 seconds, with the sun coming down, we'll be fine. We will be able to carry the stolen secret through the day. Something I overheard in dreams? Well, we will in 18 seconds. There it is in Camino Tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. I do also like the descriptions. The chair of challenges. Here the librarian Harry sat to formulate the paradoxes he would bequeath to Van Loren. Here the chaise lounge of conclusions. Here Van Loren lay to ponder the paradoxes he had inherited from Harry's. This is a safe place for me now, to the extent that dreams are safe. Alright, so we accomplished the sort of secondary goal of preserving the, the stolen secret. I think our priority tomorrow is just to properly put this, the whole level up the Edict's liminal business to bed. The eye sees more than the heart knows, Blake. The White Queen and Black King are both scowling, but the Black Queen and the White King are both grinning delightedly. The yearly stipend from St. Ronwin's has arrived, along with the usual rather sniffy reminder that I should spend it wisely. Current affairs, what's happening in the world beyond Brankrug, what visitors will the season bring? The affair of the particular mystique. The Suppression Bureau has a growing interest in the recent The Suppression Bureau has a growing interest in the recent fad for unconventional, often prophetic, religious movements. No laws have been broken, nothing sinister has come to light. All these movements are comfortingly solar in nature, but there does seem to be something going on. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. And like I said, we are putting everything into Edicts. Even if it wound up being Numa, we're putting everything into leveling up Edict's Liminal. So, I do still think it makes sense to talk with Mrs. Kill, so we will bring her in. Mrs. Kill's mood always improves when I drop by. We will also... so, I don't think it makes sense for me to... So I want to get an early run on creating the name day riddle, but I don't want to completely throw away anything useful. So I think I might give up 2 elements of the soul just to be able to get the required ingredient. So like a moth, like an impulse would be a good example here. So we need 10 for Edict's Liminal, and that actually no, hang on. We just need a memory, so if the weather turns out, maybe I don't even need to worry about that, because if we add the Tryst to Edict's Liminal, we'll keep the Shapt aside just so we can get the level up done. Now, the difficult part for me is figuring out how I'm going to make things happen with Coil and Chasm. And it's not even that that's a particularly hard call to make. It's a little bit more about how... I don't think Serpents and Venoms is going to help me out in terms of the old moment. Oh, Foundry might do something. No, it's not. But let's just take a look here. Well, we don't know what the level 10 is yet, so maybe. But yeah, I was thinking a little bit about this. So unfortunately, we don't have any like nectar. We don't have any nectar instruments. Well, this raises some possibilities, though. So if we put Coil and Chasm in here, I would still be able to add the health. Now, this is where it gets complicated. Well, no, because... fear doesn't work, though, because of the edge. Although this takes a minute. Okay, hang on. We've got some possibilities here now. So, here I could add the fear, which would give me the 2. So now the question is there a scale winter, a scale winter, nectar, moon, or grail? And I think that should be hindsight, if I'm not mistaken. Now that's quite a bit that I'm giving up in order to make this happen. But I don't hate this option. Yeah, so let's get the... We'll go for a hindsight and a fear, and we're not going to worry about Mrs. Kill for that. So we'll go to Natan's desk. So I believe this is the hindsight, yeah. I guess plural of hindsight is still... Do ablations in iron. I'll use the Fet for one of them. So for the impulse, we'll read Locksmith Stream Volume 3. And then I need a fear still. So, and actually for that, the highlighted Arab should do. So we'll do 7 Faces of Icarus. Okay, so that's the start. Now the next thing that I want to work on are any of the items that Mrs. Kill can't get me. So that's going to be the pattern, the salt, the secret threshold. I think we're on the winding stair. For that we need Ramsand. I guess the only one we haven't done yet is the Queen's turn, so... Okay, that's Salt. Stolen Secret's already on its way. The Tryst and the... Oh, hang on. I'm already getting the Impulse, that's a shame, but that's fine, we'll work with it, because I should just be able to use the Dispensary with Edict's Liminal. Oh, that's right, we needed to wait for the weather. So it'd just be the secret threshold then. And we only have one book for that. Okay, well, I mean, that's more or less taken out my elements of the soul for the day, but I don't think that's a bad use of the time. Okay, the rain possibly nope, the nectar's helpful. So we'll throw the Tryst in there with the Edict's Liminal, craft a named a riddle, conceive a mothy riddle. The Iron Spintria, depending on who arrives, we may use that to learn a language, but more likely that's gonna set us up for our next acquisition. Mrs. Gill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. Now I suppose if I want, you know, we can use the core. Yeah, we might as well use the core at the Sweet Bones. I'll restore it afterwards, but again, be ashamed to let the day. It would be a shame to let it go to waste, and it's also a shame to just spend the day entirely on leveling up Edict's Liminal. There certainly are other things that I can do. Although again, you know, I don't regret how the time has been spent. It just means that I was accomplishing a bit less than what I had planned. There it is in Camino Tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but the scant trace of the continent in her accent now. Tomorrow, after we get the Tryst back, we're definitely going to read the Geminiad too, but we also have things like Skeleton Songs, Letter to My Successor, Ivory Book. Actually, Ivory Book may not be available to me. Let me just double check that. Nope, with 5 on Inks of Containment, I would not be surprised. Yeah, we should be able, so 2 with the Whist, and 5, so that brings us up to 7, so we just get a memory and then we're good. And Signor Corso Reverti. Manuscript Hunter, Legacy, Scavenger, Mercenary. Many would question his ethics, few would deny his acuteness. So this gives me Hyksos if I want. This is a tough one, because satisfying his curiosity with regards to the affair of the particular mystique will give me more Spintria to work with which I can learn more languages. And in this case here, being able to learn Vac or Sabazine or Ericapean. Vac is the biggest one for me right now. So essentially what Hyksos will give me is the open head, which is definitely not nothing. I think I'm probably going to wind up... I think I'm going to wind up getting the Spintria from him. But I allow myself to change my mind. The Seven Faces of Icarus. In the early 1530s, the last abbot of St. Brendan's, called Roaring Richard, set down his conversations with the illiterate local cunning man, Red William. Red William describes the 7 forms in which he goes about and under the world: viper, cat, fox, eagle, dove, boar, and crow. Abbot Richard ingeniously fits these into a framework of solar belief. According to Abbot Richard, each of Red William's forms is closer to the sun and is increasingly winged with virtue. Richard draws an analogy with the waxen wings of Icarus. Hypocrisy and false virtue will melt before the sun's heat, and so sincerity and untrammeled expression of self are the utmost piety. It's worth noting that only a year or two after Richard wrote this book, John Tregonwell was so appalled by the debaucheries of the monks of St. Brendan's that he recommended the monastery's immediate dissolution. So remembering that the fear is part of the crafting for the old moment. On the winding stair, Gregory Wheelock, the master mason and architect employed by Walter de Wolf to construct the winding stair and the guest chambers in Hush House, describes a more ambitious and dangerous project. Gregory marks the bricks of his Roostouch family home, Treowin, with Ramson bricks, hoping to open forbidden doors. Gregory evidently succeeds in opening a way to something he calls the Moon Hall, but here his account becomes erratic. He insists that in the Moon Hall, the horned axe is still an edge power. He hopes for an eternal rival, but cannot find the one he needs. The narrative is increasingly interspersed with chess notations and ends abruptly. Oblations in Iron, a monster hunting initiate of the hour called the Colonel, who identifies herself as Little Sophia, records the exhibits she has rendered to the Worm Museum in the Mansis. Little Sophia has never visited the Worm Museum, or even the Mansis in person, and evidently has no desire to do so. She mixes ink, which incorporates the remains of her prey, writes her records in that ink, and then burns them before the Colonel's altar. It is essential, however, to permit no drop of the ink thereby obtained to enter any portal of the body, even a break in the barrier of the skin. Should any fragment of the worm remain viable, it might enter thereby, and the hunt's ultimate conclusion be melancholy indeed. An Almanac of Entrances, a handbook of sealed and unsealed byways and shortcuts through the bounds compiled by William Harries in the 1860s during his term as librarian of Hush House. Harries describes the role played by the Legion de Sewell and the Company in the Wolf and Gold in warding the bounds against outside influences. He warns that bounds travelers may themselves be considered outside influences. The Mansis as Ys lacks walls. Ys and the Mansis have both their gates, and there may be no gate without a wall. Thus the paradox resolves, as all who walk and dream will learn. But the wood has neither gate nor wall, and so it is the wood whose roots may creep after us into the hours of our waking. And The Locksmith's Dream Trespasses, the third volume of Teresa Galmier's examination of parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans. In this volume, notoriously, Galmier's prose begins to disintegrate, and it is not clear which dreams are in fact her own. The woman in the sand-colored robe has told me the stairways of the Mansis go ever up, death is down. The mother of ants guards both directions with each of her heads, and so the passage must always be through a wound. I think the white door might be a wound. That's one reason the dead sometimes pass it. I think I have the other half of the secret now, and I hope my reader can put both halves together. Okay, so let's take stock of where we're at. So first thing we want to do is get that old moment ready to go. So health, earth sign goes in here, then we add the... Why did I go for the impulse? I think that was mistaken. The Queen's Turn, a 16th century translation of the Barrowchild's account of Lagia's turn, when Lagia, the Queen unsated, was offered the opportunity to enter the service of the Hours of the Triple Knot, as long as she repudiated her brother-lover Antaios. Lagia accepts, setting aside the arts of the Low Red Sun associated with Antaios. She bargains, however, for freedom for her daughters. The Hours of the Triple Knot accept casually, knowing that Lagia has devoured her daughters, but wily Lagia has decided, in the secret hollow of her heart, that she will adopt any who ask, if they can prove their fierceness. The traditions described here, the ones generally described as hill and hollow, are associated with Lagia before her turn, but now that she's a name of the Red Grail, they might also be safely used before an altar of the Triple Knot. Okay, so I think I made an error in terms of my effort to get the old moment, but let's see if we can recover this. So, the Nocturnary, constructed by Thyrza for her own murky purposes, maintained by the Suppression Bureau for its murkier ones, and available now for mine. So again, we add Coil and Chasm. This is going to be used to craft an old moment. So I need the things with scale. So we've got Memory Fear, an Earth Sign, and a hindsight. Okay, so the hindsight can go in as a memory, the fear can go in as a memory, and the earth sign can go. There we go. All right, recall something lost, something scale aspected. So in 90 seconds, we should be able to level up Edict's Liminal. So we'll have a stolen secret, an impulse, a secret threshold, salt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So and then the two memories that we're currently generating. So the main reason for earning a little money at the Sweet Bones was basically so that I can restore 3 elements of the soul, and then we can use that for other purposes. We won't read books with them, but we can do other things. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. So we'll bring back Faust first, I think. It is spring, and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie, with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. Is this a way to the wood? But perhaps the wood is not a suitable place for a librarian. Named a riddle, a deceptively intricate riddle that might just teach us who we really are. Gavenius van Loren was notoriously fond of these. So once the old moment is ready, which 47 seconds away, there 'tis in Camino Tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. So the purpose for, bringing back memories is not a whole lot. There's not a major justification I have for it, other than the fact that I can bring at least one of them through sleep, and I am still restoring elements of the soul, so I could use these to create other things. That's kind of the main justification. For instance, bringing back a whist would actually be a good idea. So tuppence will buy me a hearty meal in a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. I also just haven't decided yet if I want to give Corso the book. I probably will. Hyksos is definitely nice to have, but it's not a major priority right now. With keeper level scale, an old moment can lead to an earthquake name. You've had them too, those moments where we seem to look out at the world through another's eyes. What if those moments were real? Okay, time for the dramatic action of today. At last, I approach mastery. So there's one more level after this, and essentially at that point, I'm relying either on one of those special memories I talked about before, or on weather. Neither of which are something that I really want to put a whole lot of emphasis on. But it's still worth, in my view, it's still worth. It's worth kind of noting. And you know what? For safety, I think I am going to talk with Signor Corso. I don't need an appointment, do I? A shadow cast by 2 candles, who passeth with the dawn. You know that one, librarian? From an unauthorized version of the Celian prayer. Very unauthorized. Try a book with as much mystery lantern as their lantern interest. So, again, I am interested in acquiring languages, but in this case, if I use the Iron Spintria, I leave myself short of a chance to get a certain, a different language. A lot of dawn iconography around these new cults. Some of them have a little pash for figures like Sunset Celier, who you might know is theologically interesting. Archbishops paid me to look into the origins of the Celian prayer. See if anything embarrassing might come up. Okay, Locksmith's Dream's a usual candidate for these, but it's only level 3, so I don't want to give away the store yet. Wow, we have a lot of powerful lantern books. Okay. Choice may already be forced on me, so lowest we've got is 8 right now. These are too difficult. It would be very fun to to give him a cursed book, but okay, you know what? I'm just gonna click through. But I think, oh, here we go. The Bancroft Diaries. Does he know Latin though? He's working for the church and he doesn't know Latin. Ah. All right. I'm not expecting these to change color, but there are a couple cases where they're not, and given that I'm cataloging all of these by memory, I actually think we went through this with DI Moore. But it doesn't hurt to just do a quick inventory of what I've got. All the knock books are all the pattern books are knock. Okay, that's not exactly an earth-shaking surprise. I'll maybe do one more pass through the afflicted books just to be sure. I should actually remember I have 2 Hyksos books, not just one, so technically Hyksos is more attractive than Ericapean. But the fact that these things are cursed is also relevant. Okay. And then I've kind of got my whole section here, but honestly level 8 is not exactly an improvement. So I think I will just accept that I'm going to be sending along something a little more powerful than what I would normally want, but that's what we've got. Down something, librarian. You heard of the Chandler? Might not be an hour, might be a myth. Not recognized by the church, either way. I never made the connection with Sunset Celia. I wonder if the Archbishop will pay me to explain it to him, or if he'll pay me not to. Okay, so that's Spintria in my pocket. I still think that's the right way to do today. But again, I am sort of short on things that I can do. We're kind of on the second half of the day. I think the right call... I'm going to sort of store these up. Yeah, you know what? Inspecting different parts of the house is probably the right call here. So let's go... Let's appreciate Brian Levinson's work. Better now. Now, one exception to this would be the crafting. So I don't see any problem making another. All right, Solomon's preparation. We're 1 short. Pouring a glass of water should do the trick. I was hoping we could get past the add water bit, but looks like I'm still coming up short. I guess we don't need to add the memory anymore, but in this case we still need a little bit more. There's actually 2 main advantages to Solomon's preparation. One, I get to, another powerful winter drink, but I also get to clear out some of the flowers in Elopolis Nook. So the day's plan, actually it's occurred to me, I'm 10 minutes over. I got really absorbed in the day. I think maybe I'll just wind up, yeah, I should probably call it here. I'm sorry, I completely lost track of time, so, but the main thing that I wanted was that Edict's Liminal. Now, if we wind up with another Edict's Liminal lesson, I just throw my hands up and say, what do you want from me, game? For the next few steps, though, it's really just going to be about reading the remaining books. We actually have quite a few straightforward ones for us. The other thing that's nice is I don't really see a lot of these books being showstoppers in terms of just like being able to move on to other things. So I think I'm going to be able to do something like read the Geminiad while also maybe be able, bringing in Mr. Kill to, open up the stop clock, or what else do we have? Actually, I should maybe also take a look at who... actually, yeah, I maybe want to stop making... the Solomon's Preparation, because I don't have as many winter rooms to unlock anymore. Maybe I should be paying a bit more attention in terms of some of these other areas. And then the other thing to remember too is there's a bunch of crafting that I can do to gain access to various parts of the house. So in any case, all of that is something to be handled later, because again, I don't like going too late, particularly without a good reason. So we got what we wanted to do today. Thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry to end kind of abruptly, and we'll be back tomorrow. I think that'll be the last episode for the week. Either way, we'll see you then.